Hey everybody, welcome to Badass Rebel Vegan. I'm your host, Jane Elizabeth. Going vegan changed my life in so many ways. After aligning my behavior with my beliefs, I dropped over 80 pounds and found my purpose. Now I'm finally the fit, healthy athlete and role model I've always wanted to be. Now, the very best part of this whole story is that I'm finally showing my daughter what it means to live a healthy, compassionate, cruelty-free life. Now it is my mission to show the world how much power there is in going vegan. Now, today's story is so incredible. I am so honored to introduce you to the convicted vegan, from prison inmate to a compassionate vegan screenplay writer and author. Anthony Bucci's story of redemption is nothing short of amazing. Welcome, Anthony. Thank you so much for being here today. So tell me a little bit. I mean, people hear your story, they see you, they want to know more. Tell me a little bit about what first inspired you to go vegan, because you certainly weren't raised this way. It took a lot to get you to this place. So share a little bit about that journey for me.
Okay. First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here. I want to say hello to all my Facebook friends, Instagram friends. This is a new journey for me, as you all know, so bear with me. I'm a little nervous, but I'll be okay. I always make it. All right.
You're doing great, Anthony. You're doing great.
I'm just playing.
You're so authentic. I think people see you, and once you start talking and you start sharing your journey, people are so drawn to you because you have such a relatable story of redemption. And we were talking a little bit about change and about it's never too late to make a positive change. And I feel that really feeds into your story and how you found out about veganism and how you turned your life around. So share a little bit about that moment for our audience so that they can learn about how this all started for you.
Okay, I'm a creature who loves knowledge. So when I was away, I had my mother, she's over here watching. I had my mother sending me all kinds of books. And she just sent me randomly, actually, a plant-based book. And I was intrigued by it. And then I started learning, like, as you said earlier, I'm second generation Italian. So I was raised on pasta, meatballs, sausages, all that stuff, pizza. So anyways, after reading the books, and I had no, access to anything in prison other than books. So after reading books, I was just like blown away because I love animals, and I never even realized the effect I was having on the environment, the animals, anything. So I was like green. I had no knowledge at all. And the more I read, the more I got intrigued, and the more I became like actually was sad that all these years I had been doing what I had been doing. But like I said, I was blind to it all. So once I realized what I was doing to the environment, the animals and all that, because I was in prison, I could not, it was almost impossible to go full vegan, especially when you get in trouble like I was at first. It was either eat or starve. So I cut back. I started eating a lot of fish. I kept down the red meats, almost, totally not eating anything. And then as I kept reading and reading, I couldn't eat any more meat. So then when I got out last year in October, I had access to the videos, podcasts, all that stuff like we're doing here, but all kinds of stuff. So anyways, right now, if I go into a supermarket, I can't even look at the red meat. So I've from all the podcasts and knowledge I've gained, I knew veganism was my way, my calling. That's what I did. I became full vegan last October.
And that's really incredible because, this wasn't how you were raised. You were in this place of almost rock bottom. I mean, this was a place where, a lot of people are or have been, they have experience there, but it might not be exactly what you were experiencing, but people know what this feels like to be in this place of needing something to change, needing some sort of sign about their purpose, about what their direction. And I feel like sometimes people feel, if they don't get there in their 20s, it's never going to happen. But that's not true, because it's never too late to start your life over again. And your story of redemption speaks to that so loudly. So tell me a little bit, going back to those moments in prison. I know you shared that you were in solitary confinement, which is not a great place to be, and you were at a very low point. Walk me through what happened from there. Once you had these resources, you had books, you have been doing a little bit of, self-reflection, or maybe a lot of reflection. Tell me what changed from that point forward and how you used your time to better yourself and to serve other people.
Okay, I got in trouble once again, and I'll never forget it because 2 weeks before I got in trouble, an old-time convict pulled me up and said, "You're out of control, kid. Be somebody your family, your parents, your friends can be proud of, because you're just way out of control." I had a chip on my shoulder. I was doing 21 years in prison. I didn't care about nothing or nobody at that point. So I went to the SHU. I got in trouble again. This time I had 6 months. It's called solitary. Well, the SHU is basically solitary confinement. Segregated housing unit is what that stands for. So I was doing 6 months in the SHU, and I came to a point where I was thinking about what he said, and I was like, I put my family, my mother, everybody through hell, and I questioned my will to live. Actually, I was at my lowest point, my darkest point. It's kind of weird telling you guys this, but I was at my darkest point, and I was staring at the ceiling, and I was saying, "Please give me a sign to live." Like I was questioning life. 2 minutes later, there was a knock on my door. And now I'm in Pennsylvania, so I'm like far away from Boston, 500 and some miles. And there's only a couple COs, correctional officers, from around our way, from the East Coast in Pennsylvania. And one of them I happened to like. And he wasn't even working in the SHU, but he got, he had extra time or extra duty, whatever it was. And I got a knock on my door, and he made a special point to come see me. And he's like, "You're in trouble again." I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Here, take some paper." So I was like, "I don't want no paper." And usually I don't even talk to prison guards. So it was rare that he was even down there, because if it was anybody else, I wouldn't have taken it. He's like, "Come to the door." So I went to the door. He goes, "Come on, take some paper, write your family, do something in there." Because all I was doing was exercising. So he was a cool guy. I called him Rhode Island. I said, "All right, Rhode Island." And then it snapped. I was like, wait a minute, this is my wake-up call here. I've been asking for a sign. This is it. The guy's not working the unit. He's here, and he's giving me paper. And that's when I started Infinity Crew, my book. It saved my life. And that's also when I had my spiritual awakening on other things. I began meditating. I was exercising. Obviously, there's nothing else to do in there. When I got back to the compound, that's where you go after the SHU, back with everybody else in population. I started exercising. I went from like 290. I was a flounder. I was a fat guy. I went from like 290 to 220, lifting weights, walking, meditating, just doing good things, being nice. From that day on, too, I stopped being a troublemaker. Well, sometimes you can't miss trouble, but I stopped initiating trouble. I stopped, like, unless somebody put their hands on me, it wasn't going down. But before that, if you said something slick to me, it was on. So that was my spiritual awakening. I got out of the SHU. I continued to write. I cleaned up my diet, because I had also, when I was down there, I wrote to her, and she sent me books, because I was, like I said, I was there for 6 months. And some of them were on veganism. I keep looking at my mom because she's here listening. Some of them were on veganism, plant-based, and all that. And so when I got out, like I said, I couldn't be full vegan, but I was basically pescatarian at the time, only eating like tuna and stuff like that. Once in a while, I'd have a weak moment, but for the most part, I was on point. So I began really educating myself. I took 50 educational courses, some correspondence, some in the prison. I studied the law. I had already put in a bunch of motions. That's one thing I did, because before this, I was in prison before. I did 41 months, but that was like a slap on the wrist for a guy like me back then. So I got out. I was out for 4 years, and then I went to trial. I got a 21-year sentence for one-day drug conspiracy. It was in the height of the drug on wars. So, it was a harsh sentence, but I deserved it. Not that much, maybe, but Without that sentence, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Well,
Like
and Anthony, I got to say, so I love how you say this. You said, okay, it was a harsh sentence, but I did it. I deserved it. I was there. And we were talking a little bit before, and you were saying that this prison sentence actually saved your life because you were going down a path that really wasn't aligned with who you really are. And I think, so many times people get caught up in doing things the way they've always done things. People get caught up in life in general. It gets busy. It gets crazy. People go down a certain path and they feel like they're stuck continuing down that same path. But you used this time to actually change your life. And you shared with me that you did some things that were pretty incredible while you were in prison. So you were there, you changed your life around. You also did so many things for other people. So share a little bit about that with our audience. And then I really want to talk about your book. But before we do that, I want people to really understand the type of person you are and how you used your time to give back, to take care of people. I know you trained some service dogs. So tell me a little bit about your experience with those things.
Okay. Well, like I said, first I took the classes. Knowledge is power, so I wanted to learn. And the prison I was at, they had a guy from Massachusetts, and he had glaucoma. That he had like a lot of stuff wrong with him, and he shouldn't have been in the prison that we were in. So I got a call on that loudspeaker to go to G Unit. And I was like, I'm not even in G Unit. But one of the counselors over there took a liking to me because I was at another prison that he was at. And he knew, I was a solid guy. So he called me to over there, and I was like, what's going on? So I went over there, and he was like, listen, I need a favor from you. And I said, I don't do favors. I thought he was asking something crazy, like for information or something. I was like offended. And I said, I'm not like, I don't do favors. I started walking out the door. He goes, no, we got a guy over here from Boston. He's a good guy. And I said, what's he in for? And he told me he was an ex First Circuit. Get that? They put me away, but he was an ex First Circuit lawyer. He had start of Alzheimer's. He had glaucoma, and he shouldn't have been in the prison. So he asked me to watch him. Now I was living in preferred housing because I had been in this prison for like 6 years. But since I just got out of the SHU and I was trying to do the right thing every way I could, he said, find a guy from Boston to watch him. And without even hesitation, I said, I'll do it. So I gave up a cell by myself with a shower, with a toilet, and moved into a 6-man room so I could take care of him. I fell in love with the guy. He reminded me of my stepfella, right? So I used to, do everything for him. He ended up finally getting shipped to another prison, medical facility. And after I did that, a friend of mine who lived upstairs, because now I'm living on the first floor and he couldn't make it up the stairs anymore, they thought he had sciatica. His name was Clark. He was from West Virginia. So he moves into the room with me. I said, come on down. Ray just left. That was Ray Stebbins, the first guy. So Clark moves into the room. I'm going to go back to preferred housing. He goes for x-ray, and they find out he had bone cancer throughout his body. So I stopped my move again. And this time I took care of Clark for like 3 or 4 months until 2 days before he passed away. So the warden, the chaplain, they all came to me and they were like, you did an amazing job with this guy. All he kept talking about you was you in the hospital. The guy is dying and he's talking about how good I took care of him, which touched my heart. And I was like, wow, there's so much more serious stuff in life than, these little things like a 21-year sentence. I felt bad for myself up until my spiritual awakening, but it was like another eye opener. So after that, I just started helping and taking care of people, inmates that had problems, that had sicknesses. And that's basically when I got down to camp eligible because of my good behavior, they sent me to Massachusetts, to Fort Devens, where I trained service dogs. I was a handler for service dogs. I graduated 2 dogs, one to a hospital and one to believe it or not, a courthouse for those young kids that were testifying in court. The dog was just basically to calm them down and stuff. I could use one right now. But anyways, no, I'm kidding. So that was a good feeling too. That was really, a good accomplishment. I felt good. And the other dog went to a hospital for 10 to 13-year-old troubled kids. So, like those are the 2 dogs I graduated. Then I got transferred to another prison. And when I went to the other prison, it was up in Berlin, New Hampshire, up by Canada. It was freezing, but that's when prison reform all hit. So I had done all this stuff before prison reform out of the goodness of my heart. I had no idea. This started in 2010, 11, that prison reform was ever going to hit. But when they passed prison reform, before they passed it, you had to apply to the warden for compassionate release. And I had already done that, but I got denied. So when they passed prison reform, I could go back to the court. And what I was able to do was, because of my, rehabilitation and my situation, I take care of my mother. My mother had a stroke in 2016. She's paralyzed. And so I'm here now taking care of her. So, and the judge, I'm kind of getting emotional because she's sitting right next to me. But anyways.
Your mom is so sweet, by the way. I just have to say, because she reached out to me on Facebook, and she is just a very sweet woman. And she said that she prayed the whole time you were in prison. And she, people can sometimes maybe not understand the power of having somebody actually pray for you, wish you well, people sending positive energy to you, because I think, moms particularly want the best for their children. They love their children unconditionally. And what she was doing for you while you were in prison and she was waiting is absolutely incredible. So she was sending you information, she was sending you literature, she was always praying for you, and she was, hoping, it could, because she didn't know that you were going to get a compassionate release. She had no idea. You didn't know either, but you kept moving forward and you believed enough in yourself and in changing your story. And with her support, right, because that has a huge role in this as well, as having that support from your mom. You changed your life around. Like you said, you realized really who you're meant to be. Because yes, you were in prison. I think sometimes people assume that people who are in prison are always bad people. They assume that you've done something horrendous and that you deserve to be there, and that, this is something like there's no hope for people once they are in prison. And your story speaks to that, showing people that there's so much more to people than, making a bad decision, because sometimes good people make bad decisions. Sometimes good people make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And sometimes people go to prison for those mistakes and those bad decisions. And so your story is really incredible, because yes, you're showing people how you turned your life around. I think you're also opening people's eyes to this idea that there's more to people than what meets the eye. There's more than just this one thing you might know about somebody, because yes, that's that one thing, that there's a whole story. It's like that's a paragraph in an entire novel. So you're only getting one little tiny part. When you look at somebody, you have no idea what else they've been through, what else they're doing, who they're going to become. And I love your story because of that as well. So tell me a little bit about how you were able to get that compassionate release, and then what that looked like in regards to other people, other prison inmates being able to get a compassionate release as well, because what you did was groundbreaking. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. But I want to kind of back up to my mother. She's the greatest woman alive, not only since I went away, but since I was born. Like when I was young, my father was a manager at a lounge, a nightclub. He was very abusive. He was a drinker. He used to come home at night, get physical. And I used to try to stick up with my mother. And she took us at 5 years old out of the house with a state police escort. She raised us on her own, 3 jobs. Unbelievable woman, the best woman I've ever met.
She's incredible, absolutely. Oh. And without her, you wouldn't be where you are now. And she did the best she could. She did a great job with you, and I think that really speaks volumes to who she is and how strong of a woman she is.
She's the real gangster right over here.
Right there. She is the original gangster right there. Your mom.
My mom. She's iron. They call her the Iron Lady.
She is. She really is. And I think sometimes, having somebody like that have your back means so much, because you learn what it means to have somebody have your back no matter what. Love you unconditionally, no matter what. Believe in you, no matter what. And I think that's really amazing. So she's great.
I was putting in motion after motion trying to get home, because I said to myself, I'm never going to be like my father was. And I never have laid my finger on my kids, but I've disappointed them. I know that, because I kept going away. So when I'm in prison, I'm reflecting. That's one of the biggest things. I'm like, I said I was never going to be like him, but I am. Not like that, but in another way. Because what I realize now is family is what is it? Family, friends, mom is everything. Like in life, there's two ways to do things. The right way, I already said this before in my last interview, but it's the truth. The right way or the street way. And I was doing everything the street way, thinking that if I made money for my family, I was a good dad, I was a good person, I was good everything. Meanwhile, I'm making it through illicit gains, and I'm not around. I'm being selfish, and I had all this time to reflect. So I would like in my book, my acknowledgments. People are going to think I'm crazy, but I thank the federal court system, the prosecutors, and the agents of my case, because 41 months wasn't enough. They gave me 21 years, and I smartened up. You know what I mean? I had plenty of time to reflect, and I needed it.
Yeah. And look what it did. Like you said, it changed your life. It saved your life. You have a better relationship with your kids now. You are home with your mom, taking care of her. And we haven't even gotten to this part yet. One of your biggest accomplishments, and this is so, so incredible, you wrote a book. And it is now available on Amazon so people can read it. It's fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and show people what this looks like. Tell me a little bit about your inspiration behind writing this book.
Well, like I said, I was in the shoe. I was in my darkest hour, and this book saved my life because it gave me purpose. It like turned me into a different person. It wasn't just the book, it was the timing. Like the guy showing up with the pen and pencils. And it was just like, it was like a sign that maybe this can change you as a person too. So I started writing. I wrote for like 4 or 5 months. I left that shoe, solitary confinement, with stacks of little tiny paper, because they only give you small little paper to write on. It took me a lot more time to decipher what I wrote than anything, because you're still in every little centimeter of that paper. But anyways, this is a book about the lead character's name is Vinnie Bruno. Okay. Vinny got in trouble. He went to juvenile detention center where he met 4 kids that became friends. Then they became chosen family. It's what I believe friendship and loyalty should be like.
Yeah. And now you said that the lead character is actually plant-based. Is that correct?
Lead character's vegan.
Of course.
First vegan gangster.
He's a vegan gangster. So, and that inspiration had to come from your story, right? I mean, because it's kind of, I guess, maybe something that people assume wrongly, but people think, somebody like this in your book, this type of character wouldn't be vegan, but you totally turned that narrative around. You created this character, and you said that these stories are based on actual events with the names changed to protect the guilty, right? And then you made him vegan.
Here, you go. I'm kidding.
Well, you made him vegan. I mean, this is so cool, because people would assume that these characters who are, gangsters, and they're tough and they're fierce, that they couldn't be vegan, right? But you completely changed that narrative by making your lead character vegan. So tell me a little bit about that and why it was so important for this character to have those characters, those characteristics of being vegan and being compassionate, even though they're tough and even though they have, so much going on in their lives, even though the story is really based on, well, it's based a little bit on your story, right? So why was it so important for him to be vegan?
I'm vegan. I don't eat cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to trial. I can't say that. So no, I'm only kidding. But anyways, the lead character, Vinny, is also compassionate.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a good guy, but it's like anybody else. If you cross him, there's a problem.
Yeah.
But I wanted to send the message out, because even like bad guys can be good guys. I mean, it's a little bit far-fetched, you know what I mean? Because you can't live your life in complete compassion, and be your strength and do things like that. But I think I want to try to send a message out, especially at this point in time, to the world, about veganism. Even if they don't agree that, some vegans might not like that he's a gangster and sometimes he's not compassionate. But I wanted to show the world that, eating right and not eating animals and caring about the environment is big, because it is.
It is. And, and it's really great because, Anthony, we're talking about this, you can be, first off, nobody is perfect. Okay. And I think that, it's so easy to criticize people based on their choices, whatever those may be, whether it's food or what somebody wears or how somebody behaves or whatever else it might be. Now, when it comes to veganism, anybody can choose to be vegan, and anybody can choose to live their life a little bit more compassionately with each passing day. And it's so important, I think, to realize that no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what your story has been up until this point, you get to write the rest of your story. It's not written for you. You're not reading a screenplay. You are writing your own story as you go. So you have the power to change your life with your own behavior, your own actions, your own reactions. And to understand that people, no matter how they look and what else they have going on in their lives, they can choose to be compassionate because it is an active choice. People can choose to be vegan. So I think that's really, really incredible that you included this into this story. So tell us a little bit about this character and just a little bit. I don't want you to give too much away because I want people to download your book, but tell us a little bit about what this book is about, what people can expect when they download it.
Okay. Like I said, there's 5 kids. They meet at a juvenile detention center. They become chosen family. Loyal to each other, passionate to each other. One of them, the lead character, is vegan / plant-based. It's basically inspired by some true crime, some I've come across in the system. It's about brotherhood through chosen family. I don't really want to give away too much. There's a lot of twists.
Don't give away too much, yeah. And it's about loyalty,
a lot of twists and turns. I've been told it's a cross between The Town in Ocean's 11. If you like The Town in Ocean's 11, it's based on from Boston. The characters are from Boston in the movie. I'm getting ahead. That's next.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes, it is. Yeah, because this book would make an incredible movie, and it's something that I think a lot of people love. And no matter how you can reach people, so whether it's through a book, through a show, through a movie, you never know where these seeds are going to grow because you are planting seeds. You're planting seeds about loyalty, compassion, compassion for animals, caring about the environment. So all of these seeds, even with people who are not even interested in veganism, you never know when these seeds are going to grow into something beautiful. And that's part of your story that I think is really relatable, is that, you weren't always this way, right? You weren't always vegan. And so being in this place now is so, so incredible. So now this isn't just a book. So this book is something that you've done. This is your life's work. It is incredible. And I'm going to encourage people to go ahead and buy this book, to read it. You will not be disappointed in this because it is so, so great. It's an easy read. You've changed your life in a lot of other ways too. So tell me a little bit about how you came to this name, this persona, as the convicted vegan, and what that means to you.
Okay, first of all, I went vegan. I had a 21-day trial. I got 21 years, right? But the real reason and the strongest reason is I'm convicted to veganism now. Like, it's my belief. So it really is, it's like a twofold thing. I'm a convicted vegan per se, because I'm convicted, I'm all in. And I was convicted.
Exactly, so it's a double meaning.
I'm a convicted vegan. But I had somebody give me a hard time before, and a few people, I can't be the convicted vegan because I didn't go away for activism. I'll plant, you know what I mean? And I was like, you can't be plant-based because, and vegan. And I was like, you can call yourself that. And I was like, listen, I've been to prison twice. Once for marijuana, which is a plant, and once for cocaine, which is a plant. So I can be whatever I want.
You can be whatever you want.
Well, I'm more convicted than you at being plant-based.
Well, and I think, when it comes down to it, everybody has their own idea of different terms and terminology and what the right thing is to use and the right thing is to say. Ultimately, what other people think doesn't really matter. What matters is who you are and the fact that you are convicted. Now, okay, you were convicted. It actually saved your life to be in prison because you had this spiritual awakening. You completely changed your life around. You wrote this book, which is going to turn into even more than the actual physical book because you're looking at a screenplay and a movie. You are also, you changed your life. So you are so convicted to being vegan. So you are in it 100%. This is who you are. This is what you do. And people can give you a hard time about the terminology. They can say, oh, it's not good enough because of this, that, or the other. That doesn't say anything about you. What it shows me is something that they wish they had in themselves. So maybe they're not convicted enough to call themselves whatever it is they want to use for their own terms. So for you, this is so great because you're the convicted vegan. You have used this then to launch your own brand. Is that correct?
Correct.
So your brand, so you have a website that really tells a little bit about your story. And you also have a clothing line, which is available on your website. So I'm going to show that here. Tell us a little bit about your clothing line and about where people can find these pieces of clothing, because these are really high quality. I love the design. These, it really shows people, and I don't think people, without knowing your story, they wouldn't understand what the handcuffs mean. Knowing your story, I know what they mean, but tell me a little bit about how you got this design and where people can find these clothes.
Okay, I designed it myself. The clothing can be found at the convictedvegan.com, excuse me. I have a store there. It's a Lightspeed store. You just go to the menu and you will find it. The reason I did the clothing store was I got out and I couldn't find any cool convicted clothing. I mean, there's some, but it was all, all mostly prim and proper and all that. So I wanted to give vegans a different look. You know what I mean? It does everything some things can be fun. You know what I mean? So I launched the clothing line, and I also did it to try to support myself, my mom, and fund my book. Things are going a little slow right now because like I have to crawl before I walk, then walk before I run, and I just got out, and I'm not savvy on computers, and people have lives out here, and I'm just learning to promote. So
you're doing a great job, Anthony. You really are. I mean, I know you just got out last year. So I think people probably look at your story and they think you've been out of prison for years, but you literally just got out last year.
Well, here's the thing. I got out last October 7th, right? I get out. I want an immediate release. We're going to get into that in a minute. But I wanted an immediate release for the compassionate release. And they just threw me out the door. I had no reintegration into society. I had no halfway house, nothing. It just was after 15 and a half years of the slow life. When I went away, there was flip phones. So I get out. Traffic is like crazy. Everything's changed. I was in my house. I can't even say I was out a year, because the first month and a half, I had anxiety problems. I'm not too proud to say I had to go to therapy, to even be able to leave my house. My mother kept telling me, go out, go. You've been away so long. But I couldn't even go out because I was so nervous to be around people. The first night out, I brushed my teeth with my fingers. All right, I went to Target and I walked in. My son dropped me off. I went to Target. I had a basket full of stuff, hygiene products and stuff, because I didn't know I was getting out, like I said. And I was so overwhelmed, and the announcement kept going off, 20 minutes to stores closing, and people were moving around. I dropped the basket on the ground. I walked to the liquor store and bought a bottle of Tito's. Came home and needed 2 drinks to calm down. And I'm not even a big drinker. I was just so like overwhelmed and had so much anxiety.
Well, and there is no shame. There is no shame in getting therapy for anxiety. This is something that I think, there's a stigma there. And I love that you shared that and being so open and honest and raw about that, because people who experience anxiety often feel like they're completely alone, like the world is against them. They are never going to figure it out. They're never going to get out of that place of feeling so anxious about everything, that everything is moving so fast around them and they have no idea even where to begin. And so getting therapy for that, seeking help, getting counseling, this is so, so important. And I love this message. And I hope you don't mind me stopping you on this, because it shows a lot of strength to be able to ask for help when you need it. It does. It shows so much strength. So that's really, really wonderful.
That's the only reason I'm sharing it is I shared it for people that are listening. If anybody has issues or whatever, don't be too proud. I always tell people I'm here to help people. I've been through, like I said, the darkest hours, like as dark as it gets almost. So I'm here. Everybody's human. Nobody can be perfect. You know what I mean? And for me, my saying was there was only one way to go, and it was up. because I was down as low as I could go.
Well, and
So
when you
anybody,
are, yeah, when you are in that place of being so low, like you said, of being in that dark place, when you know what that feels like and you are able to find your way out,
I'm
you
not all
want
the
to
way out
do,
yet.
you're pretty close, my friend. You're pretty close. When you get to that point where you're crawling your way out, because it really is crawling. I mean, it is work. It is a struggle. When you are at that place, though, you want to make sure nobody else ever feels that way. So you see people who are struggling and you want to help because you know what it's like to be there. So I love that this is a part of your story as well, because it's your story of redemption, of turning your life around and using everything you've been through to help other people. And I think that is really the greatest accomplishment, is that, you know, not only have you turned your life around, but you are doing this. Everything you're doing is to help other people. And I really want to touch on this because this is something that is important. People see other people and they think they have it all together. They think they aren't struggling still. But now there is something that I would really like our audience to do. One of them is to support you by purchasing your book. And the other thing is to support you by purchasing some of the clothes from your clothing line. Because, you know, listen, you live with your mom, right? And she, like you said, she's paralyzed because she had a stroke. So she, you know, you're in a place right now that isn't really conducive to her needs. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so our audience being able to help you out so that you can get her into a place that is handicap accessible, right? With, you know, someplace where we can have her wheelchair, someplace that is comfortable for her, accessible for her. This is one of the main things you would like to do. So tell everybody how they can support you so you can do what you want to do to take care of her.
I wasn't expecting this one. I mean, I opened my clothing line to fund my book to survive. I want to get out of where we're living. We're in a condo. I want to get my mother into a house, one story, wheelchair accessible. So anybody that buys products or buys clothing or, you know, my book, it's going to help me.
Yeah. And I think, you know, people assume, you know, oh gosh, you're here, you've got this book out. They think you've got everything you need and that they don't need to help or support you. And I would just like to say that, you know, everybody needs help and support in one way or another. And you're doing so much to help other people by sharing your story, by writing this book. You're taking care of your mom. And I know she has given so much to you as well. So she is your support system.
She's
So
my baby.
yeah, absolutely. And I just really want to make sure that everybody knows that it doesn't end here, that we need to all support each other, the vegan community and beyond. We need to support each other. And this is how people can support you. So I really want to touch on that. Now, tell me just a little bit about how things have changed for you, because, you know, once you got out, you got some help because of your anxiety. You were able to kind of create a whole new life. You were able to mend some fences. You were able to repair relationships in your own life, especially with your kids. So if you would be willing to tell our audience just a little bit about that, I would love for them to hear that, because there are so many people who are struggling and they think that there's no hope to repair relationships in their lives. And, you know, it's never too late. And I feel like your story really speaks so loudly to that hope, and, you know, the work it takes to actually repair those relationships. Would you be willing just to tell us a little bit about that and how your life looks now versus how it looked before you went away?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say one thing about, you know, the book in the clothing line. More importantly than buying anything or any of that is if I can help one person that was where I was, I feel like I did something. If I can help more than one, it's a score. So anybody that is going through a dark place or needs help, like I say on my post, and I mean it, instant message me, DM, whatever it's called. I don't even know, but just do it, and I'll talk to you. And if you're in a bad place, I got you. You know, I can't cure you unless, or help you unless you want to help yourself, though. So I'm here for anybody that needs help. I forgot what you asked me.
Yeah.
I wanted to
No,
get
that's
that though.
fantastic.
That was
Yes, and
important.
I love that, Anthony. And you are one of those people who will respond to people. You will not hesitate to talk to somebody. You're very personable. I know sometimes people might hesitate just because they're like, oh, this guy used to be in prison. Can I really reach out? Is he going to be a nice guy? He is a nice guy. I can tell you that from firsthand
I'm an
experience.
empath.
He's
I'm an
very
empath.
compassionate. Yeah, you are. You are. And that's why, eating animals never resonated with you. You've always been a compassionate person. You just had to kind of find it.
Well,
And
that's
go
another
ahead.
story too. When I was young, my
Yeah.
grandfather killed a chicken in front of me, and it was like a pet to us, but he thought it was making me a man by doing it.
Yeah.
So that it was always in the back of my head that it was wrong, but I was just brought into that heritage where, you know, pasta, meatballs, sausages, like I said, roasts. It was just the way I thought it was until I started reading these books. I never realized what I was doing to the animal. Like it never resonated that I was eating animal. You know what I mean? Like something that's put on this universe to live like we are. You know, and so many people aren't even aware of that. Like I have people torture me all the time, my friends and stuff, that just don't, and everybody does what they want to do. I don't judge anybody. You know, I'm doing what I think is right. But, don't judge me for not killing an animal. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think people, we get so caught up into the way things have always been done. And you spoke to that a little bit, and tradition. People think that they are dishonoring tradition by changing it to fit their beliefs. And they're not, because you can honor your tradition, you can honor your heritage, and do so in a way that is compassionate to the animals, that is environmentally friendly, that is good for your health. So you can change things, you can tweak things to change the way traditions are presented. And you know what? Some traditions are just meant to be broken. They really are. And when it comes to eating animals and animal products, we are seeing so much change in that regard because people are becoming aware of what actually happens to the animals. And it doesn't resonate with them. I mean, I went vegan for the animals as well. It never resonated with me well to eat animals because we would save these animals and then, these animals would end up on my plate. And it was that feeling of, this doesn't fit who I am, and it doesn't feel good, to live a life that doesn't really resonate with my beliefs, my belief in living a nonviolent life. So I love that you're sharing that part of your story too, because there will always be pushback when we're talking about tradition, when we are talking about change, because change is tough, it is uncomfortable, but you never know when those seeds are going to grow when you
Change
plant
is
them.
good.
Exactly. So if you would tell me just a little bit about repairing those relationships with your kids, because I feel like this is so important for people to understand. I feel like there is somebody out there who really needs to hear how you were able to go from your kids really not wanting to necessarily even speak to you too much to where you are now.
Well, first of all, you have to be man enough to admit your faults and how you were wrong. And a lot of people don't even realize it, like me. Like I said before, I thought, and I was under the impression that an Italian guy is, provides for the family. As long as he's home on Sunday for Sunday dinner, it's okay. And a Sunday dinner was filled with animals, but well, we already went there. But anyways, and I never realized the pain, the hurt that I was causing my kids, my family, by not being around, by living that fast life, being selfish. Because at the time I didn't realize I was selfish. Like I said, I thought that was the way it was. So when I got arrested and I went away, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, and I started taking parenting courses in my, reform as a person. And then I realized, and it was like, wow, like all these, and I had all this time to reflect the hurt, the pain, and I've apologized a million times, and I'll apologize again. I'm sorry, kids. I'm trying to work and mend our relationships. It's going very well, but it's a work in progress because, scars don't heal in one day. So as long as I can keep moving forward and try to be better every day, it's the score.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that, you acknowledge your role
Oh yeah.
in changing that whole narrative with your own children, and but you were doing what you thought was right at that time, and you didn't really know that there was a different way. And once you were able to realize that there was another way of doing things, to really show up for your kids in a whole different way, that changed everything. And I just feel like there is someone out there who needs to hear that. There's somebody out there who needs to hear that it's not too late, and that they can also repair relationships that they may think are too far gone. It's never too late. It's never too late to start again and to repair relationships and to make the most of the time we have, because that's all we have is now. So, do what you can right now, and you keep moving forward with the most compassionate spirit possible, and, making changes. And your story, again, is so incredible because, you weren't this guy before you went into prison, and you totally changed your life around. So
we'll say the guy I was would not be here right now, would not be vulnerable, would not be speaking, would not be trying to help others. It would be the hell with anybody else. It's all about me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I grew up, like I said before, 5 years old. My mother left, my hero. She took us out of the situation, but she worked 3 jobs. So I was running the streets at a young age, and I just learned on the streets, and I thought that was how it was supposed to be. Yeah. Took prison to wake me up. And if I got less time, 5, 10 years, I probably still wouldn't be waking up. And that's why I thanked the court in my acknowledgments. And I meant it, because without that long stretch of time, I'd probably either be dead or in jail for life. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be speaking. I'm happy to be, trying to give a message to people. I'm happy.
And I'm happy that you're here, because you do have such a powerful message. It is different than anybody else I've had on this show. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and being vulnerable and showing up.
For you, Jane.
I love it. You look so sharp, Anthony. I love the sports coat. The whole outfit is fantastic. So I want to be respectful of your time and of everybody else. We're getting close to our time for the day. So one more time, where can people find your book and your clothing line? Because I want to be sure everybody knows where they can find you, where they can find this fantastic book called Infinity Crew, a novel inspired by true crimes, but the names have been changed to protect the guilty. So where can people find this book and your clothing line?
You can find the book at Amazon.com. It's available in paperback and Kindle right now. It's going to be sold in about 70 selling platforms from 1 week to 6 weeks, places like Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that online. Or you can find it on my website, theconvictedvegan.com.
And that's where people can find your clothing line as well, correct?
Exactly, yep.
Perfect. That's excellent. So if you have, one thing you could share with people, if somebody is struggling right now, or, somebody isn't really sure where to go, they're in this place where, maybe they're in a rough spot. Maybe they have done things they're not necessarily proud of. What are some words of advice you would give to those people?
What I would say is the old saying, what doesn't kill you will just make you stronger. You're looking at a guy that was reduced to ashes, and I'm here talking to you, trying to help you. So if you need help, instant message me, or if you don't have a friend or somebody to talk to, I'm here. I'm here to help anybody in a dark place, anybody that even needs help with anything. I'm trying to give back, so it would be my honor to help you.
Yeah, I love that. And, and it's never too late. You can always turn your life around. What you do today doesn't have to be based on what you did yesterday. Every day is a chance to start again. And I think that's so beautiful to see in your story and other people who have been able to dig their way out of that dark place. They've been able to turn their lives around. And you have done so beautifully. So I want to thank you so much, Anthony Brucci, for being here today, The Convicted Vegan. Please, everybody, go ahead and visit his website, theconvictedvegan.com, purchase his book and some clothes from his clothing line. And I'm just so excited for what is going to happen from here on out for you, Anthony, because there are so many wonderful things in the works. We're not going to really get into that this time, but there are some exciting things coming up for you. This is just the beginning. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Like I said, don't forget to go ahead and check him out at theconvictedvegan.com. Thank you so much, Anthony. And thank you to everybody for joining in today. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody.
Thank you all.